We have an unresponsive child at 5229 Gwyn Hill Road, 27 pounds, 6 years old, dead. What happens when the person you trust most becomes your worst nightmare? Today, I'm going to tell you about Dominique Moody, a 6-year-old girl who spent the last 18 months of her life locked in a dog crate, beaten, starved, and tortured by 3 people who were supposed to protect her. By the end of this video, you'll understand how 3 women destroyed an innocent life, and why the mother who trusted them will never forgive herself. December 16th, 2024. Charlotte, North Carolina. A 911 call comes in from a home on Gwyn Hill Road in the eastern part of the city. When first responders arrived, they found Dominique Moody. She was 6 years old. She was cold to the touch. She weighed just 27 pounds. To put that in perspective, a healthy 6-year-old girl should weigh around 45 pounds. Dominique weighed barely more than half that. But here's what doesn't make sense. Dominique didn't live alone. She lived in a house with 3 adult caregivers and 4 other children. How does a child die in a house full of people? How does an entire family watch a little girl waste away and do nothing? But before we get to that horrific day, we need to understand the decision one mother made that she'll regret for the rest of her life. Before we continue, if stories like this matter to you, if you believe we need to shine a light on these tragedies so they never happen again, hit that subscribe button right now. This case is still developing, and I'll be covering every update through the trial. Prosecutors are even considering upgrading these charges to murder. Subscribe so you don't miss what happens to these 3 women. And if you know someone who works with children, a teacher, social worker, or parent, share this video. Awareness saves lives. Now, let me tell you about the mother who lost her child. Her name is Ikea McKnight. She's 30 years old. She's Dominique's biological mother. And right now, she's living with a pain that most of us can't even imagine. Ikea lost custody of Dominique. The reasons aren't fully clear yet, but what we do know is that the state stepped in. And when they did, they placed Dominique with someone who should have been safe. Someone who was family. The state gave custody to Susan Robinson, Dominique's court-appointed guardian. Robinson was 61 years old. She was related to the family, and the state believed Dominique would be safe with her. Ikea thought her daughter was being cared for. She thought the system had placed her child somewhere safe. She believed that even though she couldn't be with her daughter, at least Dominique was with family who would love and protect her. She was a beautiful, smart baby. My baby was very lovable, Ikea said after Dominique's death. All the memories I have of my baby, I'm not going to be able to touch or feel my baby anymore. Ikea had no idea that the moment the state placed her daughter in that home, they were signing Dominique's death warrant. And it would take 18 months of unimaginable suffering before anyone knew what was really happening behind closed doors. So who are the 3 women responsible for Dominique's death? Let's start with the person the state trusted most. Susan Robinson, 61 years old. She was Dominique's court-appointed legal guardian. The State Department of Social Services placed Dominique in her care, believing she would provide a safe home. According to prosecutors, Robinson knew what was happening. She knew Dominique would sometimes go days without food. She knew the child was being taped inside a dog crate. And when Dominique was found unresponsive, Robinson refused to help, refused to call 911, refused to report the abuse and neglect. But Robinson didn't act alone. Living in that same house was her sister, Tanya McKnight, 51 years old, Dominique's grandmother. She was also listed as one of Dominique's legal guardians. And court documents reveal that when Dominique was found dead, McKnight waited 40 minutes before calling 911. 40 minutes. While a 6-year-old child lay cold and unresponsive, her grandmother waited 40 minutes to call for help. Prosecutors say McKnight admitted the abuse happened. She told police that Dominique got into food and possibly into THC products, as if that justified what they did to her. And then there's the 3rd woman, Terry Ann McKnight, 22 years old, Tanya's daughter. She lived in that house. She saw what was happening every single day to her young relative. How does a 22-year-old watch a child suffer and do nothing? How do you live in a house where a little girl is locked in a cage and not speak up, not call for help, not do something, anything to save her? Now I need to walk you through what Dominique endured. This is hard to hear, but we owe it to her to understand what happened, to bear witness to her suffering. For approximately 18 months, a year and a half, Dominique was tortured in that house on Gwyn Hill Road. She was forced to live in a dog crate. Prosecutors say she was locked in that crate for extended periods of time, so long that she could no longer walk properly. A 6-year-old child, confined to a space meant for an animal, until her body forgot how to move correctly. They duct taped her. They wrapped her in plastic. Police recovered photos from Robinson's phone showing Dominique bound this way. They starved her. When Dominique tried to find food, when a hungry child did what any starving person would do and look for something to eat, they punished her for it. Robinson and McKnight told police that Dominique was disciplined for getting into food. Think about that. A child so hungry she was desperate for food was beaten for trying to survive. The medical evidence tells us even more. Broken bones, multiple fractures, ligature scars, healed marks from where she'd been tied up repeatedly, burns on her body, a severe rash on her genitals and buttocks from sitting in urine and feces-filled diapers for days at a time. And the house itself? Infested with rats and cockroaches. No central heat. Holes in the walls. Human and animal feces throughout. For other young children living in these conditions. Imagine being 6 years old. Imagine crying for your mother. Imagine being hungry, being hurt, being scared, being alone. And the people who should protect you, the people the state trusted to care for you, treat you worse than an animal. That was Dominique's life for 18 months. But here's what makes this case even more heartbreaking. Dominique wasn't alone in that house. There were 4 other children living there, ages 1, 2, 4, and 5 years old. Prosecutors say they were possibly Tanya McKnight's grandchildren. For babies and toddlers who saw what was happening. For little kids who heard Dominique's cries. For children who watched their family members torture a little girl. What did they see? What did they endure? Were they abused too? Were they threatened to stay silent? Did they try to help Dominique and get punished for it? Those 4 children are now in state care. They're safe now. But the trauma they carry, the things they witnessed at such young ages, that's something they'll live with forever. And here's the question that everyone is asking. How did no one outside this house know? Where were the social workers? Where were the mandatory check-ins? Where was the oversight? Dominique was a child in state custody, placed with a court-appointed guardian. There should have been visits. There should have been welfare checks. There should have been someone monitoring her well-being. But for 18 months, no one came. No one checked. No one saved her. We'll talk more about those system failures. But first, you need to understand what was happening to IKEA during all of this. Because while Dominique was suffering, her mother believed her daughter was being cared for. IKEA McKnight is 30 years old. She lost custody of her daughter. And while we don't know all the circumstances, what we do know is that she believed Dominique was in good hands. The state told her they were placing her daughter with family, with people who would care for her, with a court-appointed guardian who had been vetted and approved. IKEA didn't choose to give her daughter away. The state took that choice from her. And when they did, she had to trust that they knew what they were doing, that they were putting her baby somewhere safe. For 18 months, IKEA believed her daughter was okay. Maybe she thought about her every day. Maybe she hoped they'd be reunited someday. Maybe she was working on whatever issues led to her losing custody, trying to get her life together so she could get her baby back. She had no idea her daughter was sleeping on a feces-covered floor. She had no idea Dominique was locked in a dog crate. She had no idea that the people the state trusted were torturing her baby. After Dominique's death, IKEA spoke about her daughter. She was a beautiful, smart baby. My baby was very lovable. All the memories I have of my baby, I'm not going to be able to touch or feel my baby anymore. You can hear the pain in those words, the devastation, the disbelief. IKEA told reporters that Dominique was left in the care of a relative she believed she could trust. But even that trust wasn't entirely her choice. The state made that decision. The state placed Dominique there. The state told IKEA this was where her daughter would be safe. And now IKEA has to live with the knowledge that her daughter died in agony, that she was tortured for 18 months, that she starved to death weighing just 27 pounds. How do you live with that? How do you wake up every morning knowing your child is gone? Not just gone, but destroyed by people who were supposed to care for her? There's no answer to that question. There's no therapy, no time, no justice that can make that pain go away. Ikea McKnight will carry this for the rest of her life. But Ikea wasn't the only one who should have known. This didn't happen in a vacuum. Dominique was in the custody of the state. She had a court-appointed guardian. There should have been oversight. Was Dominique enrolled in school? That's still being investigated. If she was, how did teachers not notice a child wasting away? How did they not see the evidence of severe abuse? If she wasn't in school, why not? Where were the truancy officers? Where were the mandatory education requirements? And here's the most critical question. Where were the social workers? Dominique was placed in state custody with a court-appointed guardian. That means there should have been regular check-ins, home visits, welfare checks, someone making sure she was safe. But for 18 months, no one came. Or if they did come, they didn't look closely enough. They didn't see the rats and cockroaches. They didn't see the holes in the walls. They didn't see that a 6-year-old child was being starved. What about neighbors? Did they hear anything? See anything? Did anyone notice that there were 5 young children in a home with no central heat in Charlotte winters? And here's perhaps the most disturbing question. With broken bones, with burns, with a severe rash from sitting in filth, did Dominique ever see a doctor? And if she did, how were those injuries explained? Why did medical professionals report the obvious signs of abuse? Every single one of these is a missed opportunity. Every single one is a chance where someone could have saved Dominique's life. And every single one failed. Comment below. What should have been done differently? Who else failed this child? I know this is hard to hear. I know you're probably feeling angry, heartbroken, maybe even helpless. Maybe you're thinking about all the children suffering right now in homes we can't see. That anger? That heartbreak? Channel it. Right now, I want you to pause this video and save the Child Help National Child Abuse Hotline in your phone. The number is 1-800-422-4453. It's anonymous. It's 24/7. It saves lives. If you ever suspect a child is being abused, call that number. Don't assume someone else will do it. Don't convince yourself you're overreacting. Make the call. Drop a comment telling me you've saved it. Let's build a community that protects children. Let's be the people who speak up when something doesn't feel right. And if this story is affecting you, hit the like button. It tells the algorithm to show this to more people who need to see it. Because awareness is how we prevent tragedies like this from happening again. Now, let's talk about the day everything came crashing down. December 16th, 2024. A 911 call comes in from 5229 Gwynn Hill Road in East Charlotte. An unresponsive child. Police and emergency responders rush to the scene. When they arrive, they find Dominique Moody, 6 years old, cold to the touch, not breathing, weighing just 27 pounds. They try to revive her, but it's too late. Dominique is dead. As first responders work on the child, police begin to assess the scene. And what they find is horrifying. The home is unkempt, infested with rats and cockroaches. No central heat in December. Holes in the walls. Human and animal feces throughout the house. And there are 4 other children there. For babies and toddlers, ages 1 through 5, living in these conditions. Present in the home, Susan Robinson, 61, the court-appointed guardian. Tanya McKnight, 51, Dominique's grandmother and Robinson's sister. And 4 young children who had been living in this house of horrors. Terry Ann McKnight, the 22-year-old who also lived there, wasn't present that day. She would be arrested later. Police begin their interviews. They start asking questions. How did this child die? What was happening in this home? And as they investigate, they discover something damning. After Dominique's death, Robinson and Tanya McKnight exchanged messages. Messages acknowledging they were in trouble. Messages about needing to clean the house. They knew what they had done. And their first instinct wasn't grief. It wasn't remorse. It was covering their tracks. The autopsy results come back, and they paint a picture of systematic, prolonged torture. Broken bones, multiple fractures, showing that abuse had been ongoing. Burns on her body, the kind of injuries that don't happen by accident. Ligature scars, healed marks from being tied up repeatedly over months, a severe rash on her genitals and buttocks from prolonged exposure to urine and feces-filled diapers, days at a time sitting in her own waste, and starvation, severe, prolonged malnutrition that left her at 27 pounds. That damaged her organs. That ultimately killed her. Prosecutors say Dominique couldn't walk properly anymore because she'd been locked in a dog crate for so long. A 6-year-old child whose body had been so damaged by confinement that she lost the ability to walk correctly. As detectives interview the suspects, more details emerge. Susan Robinson admits she knew Dominique would go days without food. She knew the child was being taped inside a crate. And when Dominique was found unresponsive, Robinson refused to help, refused to call 911. Tanya McKnight admits the abuse happened. She says Dominique was punished for getting into food. She waited 40 minutes after finding Dominique unresponsive before calling 911. Investigators recover photos from Robinson's phone. Photos showing Dominique duct-taped and wrapped in plastic. Every piece of evidence tells the same story. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't neglect that got out of hand. This was intentional, systematic torture that went on for 18 months until it killed a little girl. Susan Robinson was arrested first on December 21st. She was denied bond. The judge ordered that she have no contact with children, especially the 4 who were in her care. Tanya McKnight was arrested on December 22nd. At her court appearance, the judge set her bond at $2 million. The prosecutor was seen shaking his head at the amount, clearly believing it should have been higher. Terry Ann McKnight has also been arrested and charged in connection with the abuse. All 3 face felony child abuse, inflicting serious bodily injury. All 3 face multiple counts of misdemeanor child abuse. But here's the critical development. Prosecutors have announced they're considering upgrading the charges to murder, or even murder by torture. Because when you starve a child for 18 months, when you beat them, burn them, keep them in a cage until they can't walk, when you wrap them in duct tape and plastic, when you refuse to call 911 even when they're dying, that's not just abuse. That's murder. The legal case is still unfolding. But there's something even more important we need to discuss. The bigger questions this case raises about our system and how we protect children. After the arrests, Ikea McKnight spoke to the media, and you can hear in her voice the weight of a mother's shattered heart. She was a beautiful, smart baby. My baby was very lovable. All the memories I have of my baby, I'm not going to be able to touch or feel my baby anymore. Ikea lost custody of her daughter. The state took that choice from her. And when they did, they promised to place Dominique somewhere safe. They told her they were giving her daughter to people who would care for her. The state failed Ikea. They failed Dominique. They placed a vulnerable child with people who tortured her to death. And now Ikea has to live with that. She has to live with the knowledge that her daughter spent 18 months in agony, that she cried for help and no one came, that she starved while her guardians ate, that she died in filth and pain. How do you live with that? How do you wake up every morning knowing your child is gone? Not just gone, but destroyed in the most horrific way possible? Ikea will carry this guilt for the rest of her life, even though it wasn't her choice, even though she trusted the system to protect her daughter, even though she did what the state told her to do. She'll always wonder if there was something more she could have done, some way she could have known, some way she could have saved her baby. But Dominique isn't the only victim in this story. 4 other children lived in that house, ages 1, 2, 4, and 5 years old. For babies and toddlers who witnessed what happened to Dominique. These children are now in state care. The same system that failed Dominique is now responsible for protecting them. What do they see in that house? What do they hear? Were they abused too? What kind of trauma are they carrying? These are children who may never remember a time before this horror. The 1-year-old and 2-year-old, their earliest memories will be of this house, of watching Dominique suffer, of living in filth and fear. They're going to need years of therapy. They're going to need help processing what they experienced. They're going to need people who can help them understand that what happened was not normal, was not okay, was not their fault. For more lives were damaged by the actions of 3 women who were supposed to protect them. This case raises questions that go far beyond one home in Charlotte, North Carolina. First, the catastrophic system failures. Dominique was in state custody. She had a court-appointed guardian. The State Department of Social Services placed her in that home. Where were the welfare checks? Where were the home visits? Where's the oversight? When you place a child in state custody, you accept responsibility for that child's safety. That means regular check-ins. That means unannounced home visits. That means actually looking at the conditions the child is living in. For 18 months, either no one checked on Dominique, or someone did check and missed all the signs. Either way, the system failed catastrophically. This isn't about one bad social worker. This is about a system that doesn't have enough resources, doesn't have enough oversight, doesn't have enough accountability. How many other children are in state custody right now, suffering in homes we don't know about? How many other Dominiques are out there, waiting for someone to save them? Second, the psychology of group abuse. 3 women participated in or witnessed this torture. 3 separate people who all chose not to help, not to call for help, not to report the abuse. This is about diffusion of responsibility. When multiple people are present, each person assumes someone else will act. No one feels individually responsible for stopping it, and so no one acts. It's also about how abuse escalates. It probably didn't start with a dog crate and starvation. It probably started smaller. A punishment that went too far. Then another, and another, until torture became normalized in that household. And here's something that breaks common stereotypes. All 3 perpetrators are women. We often think of severe child abuse as something men do. But this case shows us that women are just as capable of horrific cruelty. That female caregivers can be predators and torturers. And third, the question every parent is asking: how do we protect our children? Most child abuse happens at the hands of family members or people close to the family. The people we're supposed to trust the most. IKEA trusted the state. The state trusted their appointed guardian. And a 6-year-old child paid the price for that misplaced trust. So what do? We stay vigilant. We watch for warning signs, unexplained injuries, behavioral changes, fear of certain people or places, children who seem hungry or neglected. And if we see something, we speak up. We made the call. We don't assume someone else will handle it. We don't convince ourselves we're overreacting. Because one phone call could save a life. Dominique Moody deserved better from everyone. She deserved better from her court-appointed guardian, who refused to call 911 when she was dying. She deserved better from her grandmother, who waited 40 minutes before seeking help. She deserved better from the 22-year-old who watched her suffer and did nothing. She deserved better from the state that placed her in that home and then failed to check on her for 18 months. She deserved better from a system that promises to protect vulnerable children and then abandons them. Her mother, IKEA, deserved better from the state. She deserved to trust that when they took her daughter, they would keep her safe. She deserved honesty. She deserved a system that actually worked. And the 4 surviving children deserve better. They deserve to grow up in a safe home, not a house of horrors. They deserve to be protected, not traumatized. This didn't have to happen. With proper oversight, with regular welfare checks, with people who actually cared about Dominique's well-being, this could have been prevented. And it can't happen again. Here's what I need from you, and what Dominique's memory deserves. First, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. This case isn't over. There's a trial coming. Prosecutors are considering murder charges. And 4 surviving children whose stories matter. I'll be here covering every development. Second, leave a comment answering this question. What one change would prevent tragedies like this? The best answer will be featured in my trial coverage video. Let's start a real conversation about protecting children. Third, share this video. Tag a social worker, a teacher, a mandatory reporter, anyone who works with children. Awareness is the first step to prevention. Dominique Moody, 6 years old. She deserved to be playing with dolls, not locked in a cage. She deserved birthday parties, not beatings. She deserved to be loved, not tortured. She deserved a childhood, not a death sentence. Say her name, remember her story, and let's make sure it never happens again.